They didn't break you. They only touched what was already broken inside you. Every insult, every betrayal, every rejection, it didn't enter from outside. It echoed through wounds you never healed. You kept blaming others. But it was your silence, your fear, your need to be loved, that handed them the weapon. You thought you needed to protect yourself from the world. No, you needed to meet the part of you that keeps letting the world in. Face your shadow. Walk into your pain, and when you finally understand yourself, nothing they say, nothing they do, will ever hurt you again. Because the person who knows their darkness fears no one. The source of your deepest pain is not the people around you. It is not the words they said, the choices they made, or the moments they left you behind. These were merely triggers, catalysts that stirred something already buried deep within your psyche. What truly hurts you is not what happens to you, but what awakens inside you when it happens. The wound was already there, waiting. When someone rejects you, it cuts not because of their action alone, because it touches something older, perhaps the silent absence of affection in childhood, or a long-forgotten memory of not being enough. What you call hurt is often the reactivation of an ancient pattern. These patterns form early, long before you had words to describe them. Maybe someone important withdrew love when you made a mistake, or maybe love was always conditional. So when someone criticizes you now, it doesn't feel like mere feedback. It feels like abandonment. And abandonment is unbearable because it feels like death to the inner child who once depended entirely on others for survival. You are not reacting to this moment. You are reacting to the repetition of a moment you never healed from. That is the trap. The illusion that others are responsible for how you feel. Of course, they may be unjust, harsh, or cruel, but their cruelty is powerless unless it finds a wound to land on. If there is no wound, there is no pain. This is why two people can go through the same experience and come out completely different. One is destroyed, the other is strengthened. The difference is not in the world, but in the structure of the soul. You think you're angry at them, but you're not. You're angry at yourself for not knowing how to defend your peace. You're angry that you still crave validation from people who don't even see you. And most of all, you're angry that their voice has become louder than your own. You must understand no one can hurt you more than your own unconscious mind. What you haven't healed will rise again and again. In different forms, through different faces, in new situations that feel strangely familiar. Life will repeat the lesson until you decide to sit with the wound, to listen to it without running. Most people never do. They distract themselves, blame others, jump from relationship to relationship, hoping to find someone who won't press the bruise. But they all eventually do because it's not about them. It's about what lives inside you unexamined. Every heartbreak, every humiliation, every betrayal is an invitation to look within. But we don't want to look. Because looking means facing truths we've spent a lifetime avoiding. Truths about our worth, our guilt, our self-hatred, our desperate hunger for love. So instead we project, we blame, we say, "Hey, hurt me. She ruined me. They broke my trust." But the truth is more difficult. They only found the places where we had not yet healed. Until you turn inward, the world will continue to trigger you. You will keep trying to control others, manage situations, avoid discomfort, all in an effort to prevent pain. But pain is not out there. It is inside, and it always has been. You are not weak because you are wounded. You are wounded because you are human, and the world wounds everyone. What makes the difference is whether you allow those wounds to define you or refine you. And that process begins with the radical acceptance that no one out there holds the key to your suffering. They never did. There is a strange and unsettling truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding the individuals who disturb us the most, who trigger our anger, disgust, jealousy, pain, are often reflecting back to us something hidden within ourselves. We tell ourselves that they are the problem, that they are toxic, narcissistic, selfish, arrogant, and we craft detailed narratives to justify why we feel this way. But beneath the story lies something far more uncomfortable. These people have simply touched a part of us that we have not yet made peace with. You are not disturbed by their traits because those traits are foreign to you. You are disturbed because they are familiar. Not consciously. Consciously, you reject those parts. But unconsciously, they are alive and waiting to be acknowledged. The traits you cannot stand in others are often the ones you have exiled from yourself. You buried them because you were told they were unacceptable, dangerous, unlovable. Maybe someone shamed your confidence, so now you hate the arrogance of others. Maybe someone rejected your emotional needs, so now you call others needy. To avoid recognizing your own suppressed longing, you cannot see in others what is not, in some form, already exist in you. This is the mechanism of projection, the human tendency to cast the contents of the unconscious mind onto others. It is not malicious. It is not intentional. It is survival. The psyche is structured in such a way that it cannot tolerate disowning parts of itself indefinitely. What you repress must find a way to return to consciousness, and if you do not welcome it willingly, it will arrive disguised as other people. You think they are intruding into your life, but they are only revealing what you tried to forget. This is why healing is never just about eliminating negative relationships. You can walk away from every person who hurts you and still find yourself haunted. You can cut ties, block numbers, and change cities. But the same type of person reappears, different face, same wound. That is because the true source of pain is not them. It is the part of you that refuses to be seen. There are parts of the self we prefer to keep in the dark. The selfishness, the rage, the envy, the hunger for power, the desire to control. These are traits we deny because they don't fit the image we want the world to see. So we split the psyche. We become half of who we truly are. The other half goes underground, into the unconscious, and waits. It waits until life brings us face to face with someone who embodies everything we've hidden. When that happens, we feel repulsed. But what we are really feeling is recognition. The ego protects itself through denial. It says, I'm nothing like that person. But the shadow knows otherwise. The shadow sees itself in the arrogance, the greed, the emotional volatility of others. And that recognition terrifies us. Not because they are bad, but because they remind us of what we are capable of becoming if we ever lost control. So we attack them, condemn them, ridicule them, not to fix them, but to silence the part of us they awaken. This is why emotional triggers are sacred. They reveal the edges of our self-awareness. The people who provoke strong reactions are not always threats. Sometimes they are messengers. They are invitations to look inward. The more intense the reaction, the more important the message. But few accept that invitation. Most choose to blame, to shame, to separate. It feels easier than self-inquiry. Yet without self-inquiry, the same patterns return, the same wounds reopen, the same people reappear in new forms over and over again, as if life is trying to teach you a lesson you still refuse to learn. The world exerts its power over you, not because it is stronger, but because you have allowed it to remain stronger than your inner self. This happens when the chaos within you is left unexamined, when your inner turmoil is buried beneath layers of distraction, denial, or avoidance. The external world mirrors back what you carry inside, and until you step courageously into that chaos, that wild, unpredictable, and often frightening part of your psyche, you will remain at its mercy. Many seek control outside themselves. They try to dictate their environment, manage other people's behaviors, or create perfect circumstances to feel safe. Yet all of these efforts are ultimately futile if the inner realm is left in disorder. A storm inside cannot be calmed by rearranging furniture or avoiding conflict. The tempest within demands attention, understanding, and courage. It is the battle that must be fought in silence, away from the eyes of others, in the dark corridors of the self. Inner chaos often appears as fear, anxiety, rage, confusion, or despair. It is the part of you that resists neat labels and refuses to be tamed. It is the raw, unprocessed pain, the hidden shame, the repressed desires, and the parts of yourself you disown because they make you uncomfortable or ashamed. When these are ignored, they gather strength, growing like a shadow that lengthens until it envelops your entire life. They will manifest in ways you cannot control, through impulsive decisions, destructive habits, or relationships that mirror your unrest. The external world exploits this chaos. Whether consciously or not, it becomes a battlefield where your unhealed wounds are targets. When you feel triggered, attacked, or powerless, it is often because you have handed over your keys to your kingdom without a fight. Instead of facing what makes you vulnerable, you look outward for enemies. But the greatest enemy you will ever face lies within. True mastery is the willingness to descend into your own darkness, to sit with the parts of yourself that scream for attention, that defy reason and demand to be felt. This is no easy task. It requires brutal honesty and the humility to admit that you are not always the hero of your own story. You may find aspects of yourself that you despise or fear, selfishness, envy, cruelty, or weakness. Yet these are not signs of failure but markers of being whole. When you face your inner chaos, it begins to lose its power over you. It transforms from a destructive force into a source of energy and wisdom. The things that once controlled your emotions now become teachers guiding you to deeper self-awareness. You learn to recognize the patterns of your mind and heart. You discover the triggers that send you spiraling and how to calm the storm before it breaks loose. The noise quiets, the fear diminishes, and a profound peace emerges. Not the peace of denial, but the peace of acceptance. At this point, the external world no longer has the authority to dictate your worth or your mood. Criticism does not wound as deeply. Rejection does not shatter your core. Chaos outside cannot unsettle the calm within. You become anchored in yourself. This is not arrogance, but resilience. You carry within you a fortress built not of stone, but of understanding. Without facing your inner chaos, the world's chaos will always appear overwhelming. It will push you into reaction, making you a puppet to external forces. But with inner confrontation comes true autonomy, the ability to choose your response, to hold your ground, and to navigate life's storms with a steady heart. In essence, the journey inward is the path to freedom. Not freedom from the world's challenges. Those will always exist, but freedom from being enslaved by them. When you stop running from yourself and face the storm within, you step into a power no one can take away. True freedom is often misunderstood. Many believe freedom means escaping pain, avoiding discomfort, or shutting the world out to protect oneself from hurt. Yet the deeper truth is quite different. Freedom is not the absence of pain, but the presence of a strength that pain cannot breach. It is the ability to face suffering and emerge untouched, not by building walls of hardness around your heart, but by cultivating a profound understanding of the pain itself. This understanding transforms suffering from a weapon used against you into a force that no longer controls you. The instinct to avoid pain is natural. From the earliest moments of life, the psyche learns to protect itself by fleeing what threatens its safety. Avoidance becomes a habit, a way to numb the heart, close off sensitivity, and survive. This strategy can work temporarily, but over time it creates an inner fortress that is brittle and isolated. Hardness may keep some wounds at bay, but it also prevents the healing that comes from openness and clarity. What is avoided grows in shadow, becoming an unspoken burden, a hidden vulnerability waiting to be exposed. But pain in its essence is a message. It speaks the places within us that need attention, care, and transformation. To run from it is to miss the opportunity to grow. When you learn to approach pain with curiosity rather than fear, you begin to see it as a teacher. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you start to ask, "What is this teaching me about myself?" This shift in perspective changes everything. Pain no longer feels like a punishment, but a doorway to deeper self-knowledge. This understanding is not intellectual alone. It is a visceral knowing that integrates the emotional, psychological, and spiritual dimensions of your being. It requires courage to sit with discomfort without turning away, to hold your own suffering with compassion rather than judgment. As you do this, you realize that pain is not an enemy to be defeated, but a part of the whole experience of being human. You begin to welcome it as a vital element of your personal journey. Becoming untouchable by pain does not mean becoming numb or indifferent. On the contrary, it means becoming more fully alive and sensitive with a steadiness that does not waver. This steadiness comes from a deep internal alignment, a balance between vulnerability and strength. It is the calm at the center of the storm, the eye of the hurricane where all chaos momentarily ceases. From this place, pain may still arrive, but it no longer destroys you or dictates your actions. The process of understanding pain transforms the relationship you have with it. You stop reacting unconsciously, triggered by old wounds and fears. Instead, you respond with awareness and choice. This shift is liberation. You reclaim the power that pain once held over you. You become master of your inner world, rather than a victim of external circumstances. This mastery is not about perfection or the absence of struggle. It is about the depth of presence you bring to life's challenges. When pain arises, you greet it with the quiet confidence of someone who knows that this too will pass and that no suffering is permanent. You recognize the transient nature of hurt and allow it to flow through you without attachment. This fluidity creates space for healing and renewal. Many who have experienced profound suffering describe this transformation as a rebirth. They speak of emerging from darkness into light, from confusion into clarity. It is the moment when pain loses its power to imprison and becomes a catalyst for freedom. This freedom is not granted by others or by circumstances. It is born from within, from the deep understanding that nothing outside of you can truly harm the core of your being unless you give it permission. In this sense, freedom is an inner sovereignty, an unshakable foundation that no external force can dismantle. It is not achieved by shutting down or hardening the heart, but by opening it wider. Wide enough to hold both joy and sorrow without losing balance. It is the paradox of strength in softness, resilience in openness, and peace in the midst of pain. Within each person lies a shadow, the collection of traits, impulses, and memories that society, family, or personal fear has pushed into the hidden parts of the mind. This shadow contains what is uncomfortable to admit, what challenges the image we present to the world, and what often causes us shame. It holds anger, jealousy, pride, greed, vulnerability, and all the aspects of the self we might prefer to deny. For most, this shadow remains a place of fear and avoidance, a locked room where unwanted parts are kept out of sight. But the moment we stop running from it, the moment we dare to enter that dark room, a profound transformation begins. Integrating the shadow means more than just acknowledging it exists. It means inviting these hidden aspects into consciousness, facing them with courage, and recognizing that they are not enemies but vital parts of the whole self. This is not a process of moral judgment. It is a process of understanding. You learn that what you once feared or hated within yourself is not a sign of weakness, but a source of power and authenticity. You become whole not by rejecting darkness, but by embracing it, by weaving into the fabric of your identity. This integration creates a paradoxical strength. The very things that once held the power to break you lose their ability to do so. The wounds that once bled with every slight or insult become scars that no longer hurt in the same way. This is because you have reclaimed the energy trapped in avoidance and denial and transformed it into self-awareness and resilience. The shadow no longer controls you through fear or shame because you have met it face to face. When you understand your darkness, you are no longer dependent on external validation or approval. You are grounded in a deeper sense of self that does not crumble when challenged. You become impervious not but because you are invincible, but you have accepted your vulnerability and found strength in it. The power of shadow integration lies in this acceptance. The realization that darkness is not the opposite of light, but its complement. Without darkness, there can be no light. Without pain, no growth. This acceptance also brings freedom from the need to project your inner conflicts onto others. You stop seeing your faults and fears as something external to be battled against in the world. Instead, you recognize them as parts of your own psyche that need compassion and understanding. This shift transforms relationships as you no longer react with defensiveness or blame, but with awareness and empathy. You are less likely to be shaken by criticism, betrayal, or loss because you carry a stable core within. The process of integration is not quick or easy. It demands patience and honesty. You must confront uncomfortable truths and emotions without running away or numbing yourself. Sometimes it feels like descending into a personal underworld where the familiar light is dim and shadows stretch long. But those who undertake this journey discover treasures hidden in the depths, creative energy, profound insight, and a sense of peace that surpasses external circumstance. The more you integrate your shadow, the more you embody a sense of wholeness that radiates outward. Others sense it, even if they cannot name it. You move through life with a calm confidence that is not arrogance, but quiet assurance. You are not shaken by turmoil or rejection because you have met the parts of yourself that used to be fragile and broken. You have taken ownership of your darkness, and in doing so, you have disarmed it. To live in this way is to live authentically. You no longer hide behind masks or seek to control how others perceive you. You accept yourself fully with all your contradictions and complexities. This acceptance frees you from the power of judgment, both from others and from yourself. You become whole, and in that wholeness you become unbreakable. It is said that the wound is the place where the light enters, and this is profoundly true. For the light to enter fully, the wound must be acknowledged, felt, and integrated. Only then does it cease to be a source of weakness and instead become a wellspring of strength. Those who achieve this transformation move beyond victimhood. They carry within them a resilience born not of denial but of deep understanding. This resilience does not mean the absence of struggle. Challenges still come, pain still visits, and darkness still calls. But those who have integrated their shadow walk through the night with a steady heart, knowing that no matter how deep the darkness, the dawn is inevitable. They are no longer broken by what lives in the shadows because they have made those shadows a part of their own light. In the end, the journey toward true freedom and healing begins not in the outside world, but deep within the self. It is a path that demands courage. The courage to face the parts we hide, the chaos we fear, and the pain we avoid. When we stop blaming others for the wounds they seem to inflict and instead turn our gaze inward, we find the roots of our suffering lie within the shadows we have yet to understand. It is through this understanding, this integration of our darkest parts, that we reclaim our power and become truly untouchable. No longer are we controlled by external forces or haunted by old wounds. Instead, we stand whole and unbreakable, anchored in the profound freedom that comes from embracing the totality of who we are. This freedom is not given, authority. It is earned through the fierce work of self-awareness and acceptance. And when that freedom is claimed, nothing and nobody will ever have the power to hurt us again.